Brazil is the world's fifth largest country, with an estimated population above 209 million. It is one of the world's most populous countries after China, India, the United States, and Indonesia. Brazil is divided into 27 federal units, including Brasilia as its capital. The official language of Brazil is Portuguese, and the currency is the real. The Brazilian economy is considered large by almost any standard. Brazil is the ninth largest economy in the world in terms of gross domestic product derived from purchasing power parity calculations.
There is fast urbanization, which plays a huge role in climate change. Tornadoes, once a rare occurrence, will become more frequent due to climate change. Big and medium-sized cities will become hotter with altered rain patterns. Rainfall in the Amazon region and in the semi-arid Caatinga area of the northeast could fall by 40%, whereas in the south and southeast it would increase by 30%. The warming process has slowly increased the hazard of floods and landslides. These dangers destroy crops and fields, promoting saltwater intrusion in fertile soils and river erosion.
The most affluent parts of the city next to the ocean risk losing their beaches as the level of the sea rises. But in the poorest parts of town, there's even more at stake. Many people here live in precarious stilt houses built right above the mangroves.
There's going to be lots of deforestation, so the animals will not have water to drink, and so they'll die. And that's exactly what will happen to us too, because water is so difficult to get here.
Brazil has the most important biodiversity on Earth, in great part due to the Amazonian and the Atlantic rainforests. Forests represent a large store of carbon, and deforestation releases enormous amounts of carbon into the atmosphere. It is estimated that the country produces approximately 3.5% of the world's carbon emissions, with a large participation in deforestation. It is estimated that the country produces approximately 3.5% of the world's carbon emission, with a large participation in deforestation through burning forests. Additionally, deforestation reduces the water retention capacity of the soil, increasing continental runoff and precipitation, recycling through evapotranspiration. It also contributes to biodiversity losses and makes lowland areas more vulnerable to flooding. Therefore, there is less land for agriculture, which brings in the most revenue.
Brazilian farmers have been worrying about their crops lately. Climate change has been having a negative impact on agriculture, such as rising temperatures, a shift in seasons, and extreme weather. Experts predict that these factors will cut agricultural output in some areas and wipe out crops entirely in others in the coming decades.
Personally, my family owns a farm on the southern tip of Brazil. There they depend on the livestock and plantation in order to make a living. Because of climate change, the saltwater intrusions cause the soil to dry and crumble, which isn't the best situation for healthy crops. The cattle and different types of crops they raise on the farm bring in the money, but if the land is deteriorating, the animals will soon have nothing to live off of, therefore destroying their profits and livelihood.
Brazil is slowly but surely losing their land to sugarcane farms that is being turned into ethanol as part of attempts to green Brazil's energy resources and fight climate change. The government has recognized 690 territories for its indigenous population, covering about 13% of Brazil's landmass. Nearly all of this reserved land lies to the Amazon. The largest tribe today is the Guarani, numbering 51,000, but they have very little land left due to the sugarcane farms. During the past 100 years, almost all their land has been stolen from them and turned into vast dry networks of cattle ranches, soya fields, and sugarcane plantations. Most tribes live entirely off the forest, savannas, and rivers by a mixture of hunting, gathering, and fishing. They grow plants for food and medicine and use them to build houses and make everyday objects.
The government's solution was to donate a plot of land to the Guarani, Kiowa, and other indigenous tribes, and this is part of it here. But the indigenous people say they feel trapped here, and this is why. Because just outside the fence where they live, off in the distance is their native ancestral lands, but as you can see, it's been completely covered by farmlands, lands that the indigenous people are not welcome in. Even if they are allowed back one day, they'll find lands that have been stripped bare.
Nearly 200 Guarani Indians protested Friday in central Sao Paulo against the Brazilian government's attempt to loosen the laws protecting indigenous lands in Brazil.
One indigenous man once said, "We Indians are like plants. How can we live without our soil, without our land?"
Brazilian farmers are working with nuclear scientists to utilize organic farming techniques to increase their productivity while at the same time reducing their carbon emissions in a project coordinated by the IAEA in cooperation with the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. They use stable isotope techniques to verify the effectiveness of their organic farming practices, reducing their costs while helping the environment.